the Greeks invented philosophy. They invented all this stuff because they were thinking men. And Christianity, in my view, it's the opposite of that. Actual biblical Christianity is telling you to turn off, and Judaism as well, and Islam, it's telling you to just turn off your mind and just do what this book tells you. And this is the word of God. And if you do it, you're going to get to go to heaven. And that just, to me, even if they were to say that, and actually what was in the book was good stuff. I mean, maybe they taught you, okay, you have to do Aristotelian ethics, and
Hmm.
that, okay, sure, that's fine, but they're not telling you to do that. They're telling you to be weak. They're telling you to be submissive. They're telling you to basically just take it. Just anybody comes around, slaps you, just take it. Let them slap you again. Give them your shirt. Do whatever. You're just waiting on Jesus to come back.
Hmm.
And to me, that cannot have a place in our society whatsoever, because it's intemperate, it's radical, as you said.
Hmm. What do you make of the fact that so many Christians weren't weak, though? Because there's a flip side to Christianity
Right,
that
right.
it can obviously, evidently inspire fanaticism. It
Mm-hmm.
can play into or buttress or be around at the very least uh, conquests, colonialism, etc. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Constantine became a Christian, as the story goes, before winning
Mm-hmm.
a battle.
Right.
So what do you make of that irony? And I don't really have an answer to it myself. I mean, outside of
Yeah.
saying, some, did they do this because of Christianity or in spite of it? I think that's fair enough. But I I don't know, maybe a kind of Dionysian religion like Christianity is, it actually in some ways can fuel these things. It
Mm-hmm.
can fuel conquest. It can fuel domination. I mean, we
Yeah.
had a religious war between Catholics and Protestants.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to mention the wars of religion whenever Christians will be like, we were once all united, and like
No,
we
not
have
at
to
all.
all be Christians in order so we're not fighting each other. And it's like,
Yeah.
guys,
No.
we did in a way commit genocide against
Mm-hmm.
one another.
Oh
And
yeah.
there were lots of other, geopolitical considerations at play. I get it. But it was fanatical, the wars of
Mm-hmm.
religion.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
was about extermination at some point. I mean, as I was
Mm-hmm.
saying, you could argue that Bohemia was genocided basically during this period. So this idea that Christianity, it just makes you meek and mild, it's
Yeah.
not, evidently it's not true. It can inspire vicious hatred and so on.
Yeah, it
So
is.
between ourselves among white people. So what do you,
Mhm.
anyway, I'm not sure I even have a definitive answer to this. I simply I'm it's something worth contemplating. But what do you make of that?
I mean, I just think they have to ignore the Bible. It's like there has to be a number of verses that they just don't believe. And I don't know whether it's because they're ignorant of the verses. I think it's a little bit more of confirmation bias, because I tell them all these verses all the time online, when
Hmm.
I get into it with Christians. I'm like, do you even know what your book says? And they either know or they don't know, or they dismiss it. It's like, well, he didn't really mean that, or anything. And so they get into this mindset of warriors for Christ. And I think
Yeah.
if you can be a warrior for Christ, then it's like it's okay to kill people if you're doing it in the name of God or in the name
Hmm.
of Christ. So they go out there into the battlefield with the big crosses and everything. It's like, well, this is why we're doing it. It's for Jesus. We're gonna kill everybody that doesn't believe Jesus, and then everything's gonna be great. And
But maybe that's sort of brilliant in a way.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you'll sometimes, like for instance, this is kind of morbid on my part, but I'll sometimes get into these true crime,
uh,
interviews with people, the
yeah.
killers, and I have a bit of a morbid fixation. It's not healthy. But I'm admitting it.
Yeah.
I'm, but
Okay.
very rarely do you see someone there. You will occasionally see someone who's either they're dumb and a
Mhm.
psychopath, and they will just
Yeah.
say like, yeah, like he snitched, so I killed the motherfucker. Like they'll just like full on
Yeah.
psychopath, like
Right. Yeah.
brutal person.
Yeah.
And but that's actually not what you'll find. Like if you see interviews with a lot of these people who clearly are criminal, antisocial personality disorder to say the
Mm.
least, like they should be locked away.
You
There's
mean
no
like
doubt about
Jeffrey
it.
Dahmer types?
Jeffrey
Right?
Dahmer apologized before the court, and I don't know if you've seen that.
Mm.
Other famous people will sort of justify it. I watched pornography as a child, so you should feel sorry for me,
Mm.
or I didn't. I was taken over. I was sort of possessed, and and I did this, and I don't know why I did. Like you'll sometimes get that, even though I think they actually did it for very specific reasons. And
Mm.
so I guess what I'm saying is maybe this isn't the best kind of metaphor or something, but what I'm saying is that in this weird way, like the guy from the whatever podcast or who I like personally,
Yeah.
and what is his name again? I'm forgetting at the
Uh,
moment.
I don't know.
We'll call
Sovereign
him
Bra,
Chad.
isn't he on
Yeah,
there?
Sovereign Bra. Yeah. Well,
Sovereign Bra.
what?
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Is he on that show, or I thought he was just a guest host or something, or a
I think
guest?
he's the lead host, isn't he?
Okay. Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong. I'm mixing up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What I'm
Right.
saying is that type of guy who posts Crusader memes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
maybe there's something about the human psyche or the Western psyche that you can't you need to sort of have a valence over the real. Like the real is our own will to power and even
Mhm.
bloodlust or
Right.
resentment and revenge and things like
Mhm.
that. Like that's in all of us within
Yeah. Oh yeah.
like I sound like a Christian tonight. Like within every human heart is, is evil. It's right. It's true.
Yeah.
But you sometimes need this veil of justification. So it's
Mhm.
there's almost something brilliant about the Crusader meme in the sense that it allows you to engage in these subhuman barbaric acts under the guise of a sort of superhuman morality.
Mm.
Like what would there's this quote that atheists love, and Peter Hitchens quoted it at every debate and speech, which is that um, Christians talk about um, bad people being turned good through the gospel or through the Bible. There's a
Right.
guy in prison and you preach to him and he gets out and then he's safe. He starts,
Yeah. He finds
he's a
Jesus.
he found Jesus, he contributes to the community, he's
Yeah.
pacified. And you can
Right.
find examples of that, no question.
Mm.
But what he said is that the question is really, can you make a good person do evil? Like, like that you need a religion or some sort of ideology like say National Socialism or
Mhm.
communism where that person can justify like pressing the button on
Okay. Yeah.
murdering the kulaks or or
Because it's
or, or
morally justified, because it's
yeah,
for some
or
higher purpose,
economically just
ends justify the
yeah,
means.
exactly. But you need that end in order to justify it. And I guess my response to that is first off, there are no good people, but like
Yeah.
my other, I guess I'm sort of a Protestant here. We're inherently depraved, but my other response to that is that, and this is going to maybe sound quite brutal or even evil, but the winners of history, the people who ultimately are selected, the people
Mhm.
whose ancestors survive and have, or excuse me, whose progeny survives and the progeny become ancestors of other progeny. Those are the people who were able to marshal that religion in order to destroy other people who could have
Mhm.
survived. So,
Right.
in some ways, the great challenge of history is to make good, good people do evil things. There are many people who are passive, inert plants who don't want to commit evil. And in some
Mhm.
ways, you need to give them a religion as a way of
Okay. Yeah.
inspiring them to be evil because
Mhm.
you need to be a little evil in order
Right.
to have a good society. And you need to be a little evil in order to displace or even destroy a competitor to your tribe and
Right.
worldview. So
Yeah.
it's actually, when they say good, they mean that in some bourgeois sense of like not NAP or not harming, just inert, basically.
Yeah.
And so religion needs to be able to inspire violence and evil
Right.
in order for that people to predominate.
Right.
And so, maybe there's something about Christianity that's quite brilliant in the sense of like a knight for Christ. You're
Yeah.
killing someone on behalf of this Jewish hippie.
Yeah.
You're murdering thousands on behalf of Bob
Yeah.
Dylan.
Right. Right.
Is
Well,
it is it
I
Jesus
was
kind of Bob Dylan based, like literally? Like
yeah.
that's who he is.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you're like, in the name of Bob Dylan, I
yeah.
smite. Like that's in a
Yeah.
way the brilliance of Christianity.
Yeah, I think I get it. And I was just reading Napoleon's the letters to Saint Helena.
Hmm.
Um, and he talks a lot about Christianity in that, or I was reading some other letters too. And he's very pro Christianity in these letters, but not because of he believes in any of this stuff, or at least that's not the impression I got. It was that it's a tool for social order. And
Yeah.
what he was pointing at was that it's this idea of equality that he says is so powerful because he's basically attributing all of his success to Christianity. He's saying that all these people that I needed to get out there and go be evil and kill a bunch of people in order to win is I did it through Christianity. Is that all these people, there's a drive in most people, because most people are not aristocrats, they're not wise, they're just average. And you take the average and the below average and they make a majority,
Yeah.
right? So they can push the aristocrats around as long as they buy this idea of equality. So if you are downtrodden, then equality sounds great. And this is basically what Nietzsche was saying with slave morality, is that it's their way to get power, is equality. It's their only way to get power because they're subordinate. They can't win any other way. So they gravitate towards this equality idea because it's promising to give them power. If they're a slave, it's if you live in a democracy, they're going to get emancipated. And so it's this desire for power that they use equality. So, but what Napoleon seemed to be saying is that if you are a wise general, you're going to use this to your benefit. You
Yeah.
may not believe all this stuff. It doesn't matter, because as long as you can get them to go out there and kill for you, then you can win, then you can survive, then you can do all the stuff that's necessary to maintain a country. It's like you're either conquering or you're getting conquered. And there's this no, countries can't just stay still. And if you're stagnant, you're dying. It's like you have to grow as a nation.